You want her to value you? Stop talking, stop chasing, stop explaining, because the moment you pull your energy away, not in anger, not in ego, but in quiet confidence, everything changes. She doesn't fear losing the guy who's always available. She fears losing the man who walks away without warning, without noise, and without a trace of need. You don't make her chase by pressure. You make her chase by presence, then absence. A woman starts fearing the loss of a man not when he tries harder, but when he steps back and focuses on himself. Space creates reflection. Reflection builds desire. And desire pulls harder than words ever could. When you're always there, always calling, always texting, always showing up, your presence starts to blend into the background. What once felt exciting becomes expected. What once sparked her interest starts to feel ordinary. The truth is, presence only has value when it can be taken away. If she never has to wonder where you are, if she never has to question whether she still holds your attention, then there's no urgency, no emotional investment. She doesn't fear losing what she's sure she already owns. This isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about balance. Giving her your time. And energy should be a choice, not an obligation. When you're constantly available, you teach her that your presence comes without boundaries, that she doesn't have to earn your attention or reciprocate your effort. That creates imbalance, and imbalance leads to entitlement. But the moment you pull back, the dynamic shifts. She's forced to notice your absence. She starts to realize how much space you occupied, not just in her schedule, but in her emotional world. When your presence is no longer guaranteed, she begins to question her own behavior. She replays the moments, reconsiders her choices, and feels the weight of your silence. That's when interest reignites. Not because you did something extra, but because you stopped doing everything. Your absence becomes louder than your words ever were, and that space you create isn't just for her to reflect, it's for you to reclaim your value. Because a man who knows his worth doesn't hand himself over on demand. He offers his presence when it's earned, and he pulls back when it's not respected. That quiet decision, not dramatic, not reactive, is what creates lasting impact. It's what makes her realize you're not just another option. You're a man who could be gone, for good. When you're constantly in her life, always texting, calling, or reacting to everything she does, she has no space to feel anything beyond your presence. There's no contrast, no curiosity, no emotional impact. But when you pull back, when you stop reaching out, when your energy is no longer flooding her world, something powerful happens. Space creates contrast. That contrast triggers reflection. Suddenly, she's no longer responding to you. She's responding to the absence of you. It's in that silence that questions start forming in her mind. Why did he stop? Did I go too far? Is he losing interest? These aren't questions she asks when you're always available. They only arise when you shift your energy away from her and back onto yourself. That distance doesn't just create mystery, it gives her the emotional space to truly feel what your presence meant. Maybe she took it for granted. Maybe she thought you'd always be there. But now, with you gone, the dynamic feels different. Your absence feels unfamiliar. That discomfort, that tension, it's what reignites her emotional investment. Women aren't drawn to men they understand completely. They're drawn to men who make them feel something. Men who know how to create a rhythm between presence and distance. That's where emotional impact lives. If you're always close, she never misses you. But when you step back with calm, intentional silence, you give her mind the freedom to chase what it once ignored. She can't forget you if she never has the chance to notice your absence. And when she starts to feel that space, when your silence starts speaking louder than your words, that's when her ego takes a hit. That's when the fear of losing you begins to set in. And that fear is what pulls her closer, far more than constant attention ever could. Confidence isn't loud. It doesn't beg, argue, or chase. Real confidence is shown through quiet detachment, especially when things don't go your way. When a woman starts to pull away or gives you silence, most men panic. They overthink, overreact, and start doing more to prove their worth. But the man who's truly confident doesn't do any of that. He doesn't fight for someone who's not matching his energy. He steps back, not in bitterness, but in self-respect. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing. There's a big difference between wanting a connection and being dependent on it. When you're detached, your identity isn't tied to how she feels about you. You don't measure your value based on her attention. You stand solid in who you are, even if she withdraws. That calm stillness, that unshaken presence, is powerful. It tells her that you're not afraid of losing her because you've already chosen yourself. Drama repels, but control attracts. When she expects a reaction and gets silence, when she pushes your boundaries and you don't flinch, that's when she sees your strength. Not the kind that flexes muscles or raises its voice, but the kind that walks away when energy is no longer mutual. And it's in that moment, when you don't chase validation, that she begins to question her assumptions. She starts to wonder why her actions didn't affect you. That curiosity, that uncertainty, it makes her rethink everything. A man who can detach with grace, who doesn't fold under emotional pressure, instantly sets himself apart. He becomes the rare type who values peace over drama, purpose over attention. And in a world full of insecure reactions, that kind of composure doesn't just stand out. It makes her fear losing the one man who actually knows his worth. When you go silent and focus entirely on yourself, something powerful begins to shift. While she might expect you to chase, plead, or react, you do none of it. Instead, you disappear into your own world, not out of bitterness, but out of discipline. You start doing the inner work. You improve your body, sharpen your mind, refine your purpose. You show up for yourself in a way you never did when you were consumed by trying to win her back. That shift in energy speaks louder than any words or emotional outburst ever could. While she's watching, even if from a distance or through social media, she notices. Maybe she doesn't show it, but she sees the glow-up. She feels the change. You're no longer the man orbiting her world. You've built your own, and that change creates tension. She starts to wonder, was I wrong? Why does he look better now that I'm gone? That doubt chips away at her certainty, and it's your growth in silence that triggers it. You don't need to announce your improvement. It's in the way you walk, how you speak, and the peace you carry. While she's used to men crumbling after rejection, you've used the pain to rise. You're no longer reactive, you're focused. Your progress becomes undeniable, and she realizes she's no longer the center of your universe. You've become your own gravity. The beauty of this transformation is that it's real. It's not for show. You didn't level up to win her back. You did it to win yourself back. And that's the kind of power that leaves a lasting mark. While most men are stuck in their emotions, you're building something. And that silent, steady rise becomes the loudest message of all. You didn't lose her. You found yourself. The man who can walk away, not with bitterness or rage, but with calm certainty, is the man she never forgets. Most men cling. They beg. They try to fix what's broken, even when it costs their self-respect. But the one who values his peace over her presence, who chooses dignity over desperation, immediately becomes rare. When you stop trying to convince her to stay, and instead choose to keep moving forward, it creates a shift she can't ignore. There's an undeniable power in letting go of someone who once meant everything to you, especially when you do it without trying to hurt them. You're not walking away to punish her. You're walking away because you refuse to stay where you're no longer valued. That quiet strength echoes louder than any dramatic exit. It tells her, and the world, that your love is a gift, not something to be taken for granted. And the moment she realizes you're no longer available, not just physically but emotionally, is the moment her perception begins to change. She might not feel it immediately. At first, your absence might feel like relief, especially if things were rocky. But over time, that emptiness grows. Not because you pressured her, but because you didn't. You respected yourself enough to let go. And in a world where most men chase endlessly, that kind of stillness and certainty leaves a deep impression. The man who can walk away while remaining grounded and graceful earns a unique kind of respect, not just from her, but from himself. Because it takes strength to love and still let go. It takes confidence to know that if she's meant to return, she will. And if not, you're already walking a path that doesn't depend on anyone but you. That is unforgettable. You don't get her respect by convincing her. You get it by showing her what she's about to lose. Pull away, not to play games, but to protect your value. Because the man who respects himself is the man she fears losing forever.